Welcome, everybody, back to the RLPC Redirect Podcast. My name is Dead Medic here with a different crew this time. Of course, we got our fan favorite guest here, our Stevie. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. Glad to be here again.
Glad you're here. And then also LSM come through today, and he is on here with me. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. This time not getting stopped by a tornado.
Yeah. I had to now change in directions. I'm a little concerned. I have to watch into that one too. You know, prayers and thoughts out to everybody out in Louisiana. If you guys got family or anything like that, obviously it's been a real big disaster down there. But, you know, getting into this one, we're going to have a short episode today. It is going to be live, guys. We are live. We can answer your questions in chat. If you have any, be sure to throw them in there because we don't have a whole lot planned for this one, actually. I do have a coaching session to get to at 7. So, again, we're going to end this one earlier. But what we wanted to do off the default, unless you guys ask us any better questions, is sort of go through and we're going to talk about, you know, the teams that we are like, okay, these are probably our top 4 prospects for winning the grand final in the current moment and who we think, if anyone, can knock them out or knock them off or who we think it will be between. Of course, guys, we still are going to do our bracket mate as we are nearing the end of the season. We will create brackets here on the podcast and sort of give our predictions and who wins, even the scoreline. Maybe we're going to have a lot of fun with it. The other couple announcements that I do have for you guys today. All-Stars is actually coming up the week of the 11th and the 12th. We are currently still planning it behind the scenes, but it is confirmed that we're going to try to get it in that week. You guys will be seeing a lot more about that soon, but we will have All-Stars soon. I know some people have been asking about it. We're definitely on that. Another thing is people have been asking me, what do I ping in general chats for when I do stream stuff? And I want to go ahead and address that for everyone that is here. I do that as a sort of courtesy thing so that everyone in the org has a chance to see it because it impacts everybody in the org. And what do I mean by that? Well, yes, if I did it in certain scheduling chats, then the captains and the GMs could see it. Great. But I also do it for the team. I have had many teams who neither their captain nor their GM nor their AGM would respond, but one of the team members would go, let me ask the boys, right? And so I do that to give you a full chance to make sure you're on stream. I know I've had a lot of cancellations and questions about that. Wanted to say it. But guys, let's get into it, and I'll look in chat here in a moment, see if you guys got any questions. But let's get into it, right? And let's start with Mav. I think we'll just go bottom up as we usually do. And, you know, right off the bat, Steve, I want to ask you, give me like your top 4 teams that are going to compete for, in your opinion, for grand finals. Like if you could just choose any team, obviously bracket, you know, coming through conference finals and all that's going to be different. But if you could just choose 4, who would it be? And then who do you think takes it all the way?
So there's no need to choose 4. It's only really 3. So we're gonna go Tides on their side of the bracket. Anything less than a championship for them is actually just unacceptable. And on the other side of the bracket, I think Terriers and Macaws are just a level above all the other teams chasing for those playoff spots. So I think they'll meet in their conference finals, and then the winner of that will probably get 4-1 in the finals. But that's really the most interesting matchup in MAV right now for me is Terriers Macaws.
Okay. What's your thoughts on this one, LSM?
Yeah, I agree with Stevie, just because I know Stevie knows a lot more about Mavs than me, but also just because, like, yeah, I mean, there's nothing acceptable. The Tide should steamroll their conference, and then the Macaws and Terriers should be really close. But other than that, I don't think there's anyone else even in the talks.
Yeah, you know, first of all, Stevie, I got to ask you, Panda's brother, I had so much faith, still have the faith. What's been going on?
I don't know about anymore. It's gonna be similar to the Terriers collapse of last season. So
yeah, I ended
we'll
up.
have to
I
see
think I
that.
ended up predicting the Hornets over you guys this week. Only, you know, I still have the faith, but
Oh, I think I did too.
it doesn't translate to the points. I got to do what you got to do. But yeah, you know, I you know, still possibly. I think because I think whoever wins the Steel division will be the only one, in my opinion, that has like a shot of doing that like dark horse run. Right. Like we've seen some seasons in the past, you know, how relevant is that? How real? I don't really know. Nobody coming out the Cobalt division, other than their first place, obviously, like the Macaws, would to me do any kind of dark horse thing. More likely it'll be 2 wild cards from Titanium. So you're looking at like Piranhas, Jackrabbits, really, Terriers and Macaws. I mean, unless the Camels can somehow catch up, maybe the Raptors, but I don't think so.
What's very interesting is that from that Iron division, it's the strongest division. It's not even like a debate anymore since like the trade deadline stuff happened. But Captains, Otters, and Yetis, one of those teams has to miss. And there's a world where any team but the Hornets win the division. So like if Pandas win the division, if Samurai make a late run and win the division, um, Hornets get knocked down to like that wild card slot, and they have tiebreakers over all those 3 teams. So that knocks another Iron Division team out. So
Oof.
our division are the biggest Hornets fans going to win this because they do not want to be in that 1v1 tiebreaker because they would really need to get into a 3-way tiebreaker to have it go to conference record because none of them have the tiebreakers on Hornets. But yeah, that's another little mini game that's going to happen. Ultimately, I think Hornets will probably take the division, fortunately for me. But yeah, that's one scenario that could play out.
Yeah, and I mean, RIP Yetis, right? You have to play the Tides and someone else really good this week. Otters, they did fall last week in a game we didn't think they would, but their schedule still is winnable, and the Captains have a really good schedule going in this week. I honestly think they take second in the division. I think they sweep it in here in the end. Obviously, still second right now, 8-4, jumping up from the bottom though they were all tied. But yeah, I don't see unless the Tides pull a Bulls of last season. I don't see them losing. Tides are either going to do one of 2 things, in my opinion. They're either going to get first rounded, right, which is unlikely, but if they don't, if they win that first game, they go all the way. Grand finals, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. They aren't getting knocked out in conference. They aren't getting knocked out. I think they'll win grand finals as long as you get past the first game, because for some reason, the first game of playoffs always seems to be the hardest for top tier teams. Maybe underestimating your opponents. I don't even quite know, but definitely. So if they win that first game, they're good to go.
Yeah, I'd like to entertain that in my head also, but then I get reminded that this was the finalist team from last season, so they definitely won't be nervous going into it. They'll have more hype of being 17-1, 16-2 or whatever, but I don't know. I think they're just a little too seasoned to get taken down this season, it seems.
Yeah. The question for me then is who do they play? Uh it's gonna be rough. Like you said, Terriers McCall's matchup should look good. Um, who do I give that to though? Looking at these guys, it's hard because the Terriers struggled early and they struggled often, more so than I would say the Macaws. But in the end, they've pulled it back in the back half of the season. And I think that matters. That momentum that they've built. In my opinion, if the Terriers can end up pulling close games, but wins maybe just one more loss, but wins all the way through the rest of the season, I actually think they will beat the Macaws, who have
Yeah.
had it arguably easier and have come into this 9-3 a little easier.
Bears are on a 6-game win streak too, which looks really good for them. And then, so Terrier versus Macaw, I think that Macaws are probably better on average, but I think the Terriers peak way higher than the Macaws. Like the Terriers level is like their range is really big, so I think when they're peaking and playing well, that they can beat the Macaws. But I think if you get like an average game, it gets really close, and then the Terrier they're really up and down. So if you hit them on a down day, I think the Macaws will take it because they play consistently.
Yeah. And was it your team that lost Veet recently? Someone lost Veet. What happened? Who lost that? Was it you
might
guys?
have been the Pandas. Yeah.
Who apparently was some kind of Smurf from Nemesis. I don't really know the whole thing. That's big Sag. But yeah, it's rough, and it's changed the dynamic of this Maverick. We're going to talk about trades, but we'll talk about them as we go. I think organically and naturally. There's not a whole lot to say now that especially trade deadline is over. Other than there's a lot of teams that sort of didn't understand that they needed to make some moves before trade deadline, because the amount of people that tried to make moves after trade deadline has been kind of incredible. I know, Stevie, you've been on the back end of that with sheets and stuff, but it's been interesting, let's say the least. But yeah, I mean, any final thoughts from you guys on Maverick before we move up to Indy? I think we're pretty much unanimously agreed that like Tides, how do you bet against them? I still think it would be a great grand final, though. No matter Terriers or Macaws, I think they can give Tides a good run for their money.
Yeah, I think Terriers right now, if they were to play, I think it'd be good. But yeah, the more the season goes on, if they're not playing as well, I think it might get ugly. But if they're playing how they've been playing these past couple games, I think it would be a decent series at least.
Yeah, I really have no clue. Stevie's the Mav expert, so I just kind of let him take it away this time.
Yeah. Are you gonna still be the Mav expert next season, Stevie? You moving up to the Indy expert? What you doing? What's your MMR look like?
I mean, it depends what the ranges are, because it's gone to 1280 before, like the lowest league, like Paladin in season 13 was 1,000 to 1280, and I'm around that 1280 right now. So it really depends what the ranges end up. That's why like everyone's like, oh, I hit 1231, I'm gonna be Indy next season, and it's like Doubtful. Okay. Good job on the peak, but let's wait and see.
As much as I'd love to set concrete goals, it's like with the way players fluctuate, and we've had tons of people just go like non-playing this season and stuff, which has been kind of disheartening. But like quitters be quitters, I guess. We have to change those goalposts, unfortunately. And of course, behind the scenes, I know it doesn't quite help you, but be pushing for a league above major, or at least changing major, because I definitely think players like me don't deserve to be there. And I think that if you created a higher league with no cap, you're going to get a lot more good talent. And I think the unfortunate part for that has been people that don't understand that we're not saying that in one season we will suddenly gain 150 people to join back. It will have to be a gradual process, but everything good is born gradually. But we'll get there. Moving up to Indy. Now, I'll give my take first. Indy's a little more interesting. First of all, the four-way division, I got to get you guys' opinions. The four-way tie for first in the Steel division. I have never seen anything like it. I know I haven't been there that long, but even in other leagues, I mean, I don't know whether I should be encouraged, discouraged, what I should think about that four-way 8-4 tie between the Galaxy, Yellow Jackets, Grizzlies, and Centurions, all in the same division.
This is going to get really messy. This is going to get so messy.
Like, I mean, they play each other this week, a lot of them. So,
imagine if they all end up like 11-7 or something like that.
Is that possible?
It should be getting close there because I think because they play 4 more division games, so they could start splitting those. So if the division games get flopped and then they all win out or all lose out on the other ones, it could end up pretty much a tie. But that would get really messy because you might be last for winning the division, but then when it goes to like the 2 or 3 team tiebreakers, you're like second. So that some people are going to be very upset if they think they should win on like one tiebreaker, but it's not the tiebreaker that's used. But that's going to be interesting to play out. And one of the games is tonight with the division games. I think Galaxy play Centurions and Yellow Jackets play Grizzlies.
Yeah, I had trouble even predicting this, to be honest, because I think it's teams that we in the preseason were like, we think these guys are going to be good. Then the preseason happens, they look really bad. In the first part, they look a little bad. And so we're like, okay, forget them. And all of a sudden, they've come back roaring, Galaxy being the top of that list, where I'm like, there was a point where I thought they were good. There was a point I didn't really know anything about them. Now, like, I don't really, like Grizzlies, I thought maybe would be a dark horse. Centurion started off hot. Like, I don't know what to say about these 4 teams. They've flown so far under the radar to be so good.
Yeah, they've all kind of like snuck around. Like Galaxy was really hype at the beginning, and then we were like, maybe not. And then they picked it up, winning the last 4. Yellow Jackets started off super hot, 7-2, I think. And they're going through a gauntlet at the end right here. The Wizards win was huge for them because every game they have is really big going forward. Grizzlies have kind of just snuck around about where we thought they would be. And then Centurion started hot and then haven't really stepped off the gas too much.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I tried to get several of these matches on stream. Unfortunately, player cancellations and scheduling unavailabilities, made it so that I couldn't. So we're definitely gonna take a look at that maybe next episode and see, what do we think? What do we see coming out of there, and what are our predictions? Obviously, with our stuff. But Ellison, what do you think? I mean, brother, you go through here. What do you think of the Steel division? I mean, all 8-4s.
I think that. Okay, I think to understand my idea of this is you got to look at the Iron division, their other side, and you see this 11-1 Admirals, and it's crazy that because of the way the Steel divisions play out, the 11-1 Admirals hasn't clinched yet. When the third best team in that conference is 4-8, because just in a perfect world, like imagine if Beavers beat Admirals, right? Admirals become second in their division, and then like one of these other teams from the Steel division just takes the third wildcard spot. That's what could actually happen with how this independent's going, and I think this 4-way tie is going to make this so much more competitive and a lot more interesting to watch.
It should certainly. But getting back to the main point of the question, right? Is simply going to be, who do we think is, I guess the front runners for playoffs? And to me, I don't really think you can. And it sort of itself beautifully. I don't think you can say it's going to be anyone but Admirals and Wildcats at the end. Strawberry Conference Wildcats looks a lot stronger because their conference looks a lot weaker. Obviously, the Rhinos at penalty they took 1-11. I mean, at least they squeaked out a win, right? That whole independent org is what I like to call the big oofta, right? 1-11, both teams. It's unfortunate, right? The penalty to the Rhinos. Zebra's not quite able to figure it out this season, but Wizards. Much love to the Wizards roster, Neutrino and all them, but like, especially not winning that on-stream matchup versus the Yellow Jackets, I think really solidified for me that they are not a really good playoff contender, unfortunately, at least right now, what we saw there. So I have to say you go Wildcats, right? And then the other end, I think the other end, though, is spicy for the Grapefruit. I want to say off the top of my head Admirals, but we did see that Vulcan, subs up and doesn't do as good, stuff like that. Off other teams or subs, not up, but around. But, Beavers 10-2, they've struggled more than the Admirals, and I will think in finals that the Admirals will take that matchup. There could be a dark horse run, though, from Steel Division. I truly think that one of the Steel Division teams could give the Admirals a run for their money if they're caught lacking. So to me, it's going to come down between Admirals, Wildcats, and I want to say the Yellow Jackets team looks spicy on stream. So I'm going to say Yellow Jackets, even though I was thinking Grizzlies off the top of my head. What do you guys think, though? I mean, it's tough coming out of that Grapefruit Conference to predict who we truly think is the best. You want to say Admirals, but it's also sort of a contest.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely Wildcats on the other side for sure. I think the Sockeyes could potentially have one upset in them. I would consider Sockeyes beating the Wizards an upset. I think they have one potential upset in them, but not two. I don't think they could go upset, make the finals. So I think Wildcats get there pretty firmly. And then the flip side with the other side, Admirals, I think that they can get upset. If they make it to the finals, it was actually like a road to finals. Like it wasn't like win, let's go. Like it's gonna have to be a grind, and I think that will ultimately get there. But I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they got upset.
Yeah. What do you think, LSM? Well, actually, first of all, before we do that, Stevie, on the other end, for the Wildcat side, is it just Wildcats all the way lock grand final? I mean, anyone gives them a contest? Do you still have faith in the Wizards? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's Wildcats. I think the potential for upset is a lot lower. Yeah, because they're gonna play a sub 500 team in round one, so then they'll probably play winners of Sockeyes, the winner of Sockeye and Wizards, and I think in both those matchups they're pretty favored.
Yeah. Allison, what do you think, brother? What do you think it's going to come down to? You
I
think Admirals
think,
got it?
yeah, I think this is undeniably coming down to the Admirals and the Wildcats. Well, I think the Admirals have the hardest route, and they're most likely going to be in that upset area where the Beavers maybe, or one of these Steel Divisions teams could beat them. But on the other side, I mean, the Wildcats are making it for sure. Like, if someone somehow upsets them, I'm genuinely going to be surprised, and this team should genuinely like their run. They lost it all in a run they should have won. So I'm gonna say Wildcats Admirals for the finals, and then I have no clue from there. I think the Admirals looked like the stronger team throughout most of the season.
One question before we get off independent here, though, that I have to ask, because I'm sure they're like, but what about us? 8-4 Sockeyes underneath the Wildcats. We sort of didn't say anything about them. Even above a record above the Wizards, who would lead the Cobalt. The problem I think for us, right, is going to be that they would presumably play what, the Wizards probably
They play
first round?
Wizards, yeah.
I mean, what do we think about this Sockeyes team 8-4? I don't know much about them. That's the problem. Big Pogfish or Pog, but like, I don't know.
I love the Pogfish. I think they could potentially be second in this conference. I just feel like they're a tier below the Wildcats. Is really why they don't get talked about as much. Because when you think of that conference, you think Wildcats, and then the Wizards started hot, so you think Wizards. And they've been sneaking around. But like I was saying earlier, I think they have one upset. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if they beat Wizards, which I would consider an upset. But I don't think they can run Wizards into Wildcats and make the finals. That would be a insane run.
Yeah. Elson, what do you think about it?
I'll just honestly, I think I'll stick with Stevie's opinion.
Yep, doing the old Klopp special. Yeah, that's about what I was thinking too. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, so that's exactly. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with
Oh,
that.
okay, we're in territory. I know
Yeah.
Slimton. I know I have a team in the Cobalt division. I know they're not making playoffs, so I just kind of leave it at that. And we go
And
next.
they're tied for that second wild card right now.
Yeah.
True.
The Sockeyes too, they're plus 31 goal differential, but their stats do not reflect that or an 8-4 team. Like, I don't know how they're there with these stats, and they're just not the best. I mean, they're okay, they're fine, they're getting it done somehow, but when you stack them against the Wildcats, you're right. From a statistical perspective, I don't think there's any way these Sockeyes will upset the Wildcats, but we'll find out. And so moving into A, right, and keep this training going again, we got about 30 minutes. So, uh, you know, I want to LSM. You haven't let us off yet, brother. So you go ahead and start us off here. Give us what your thoughts are here.
All right. So thoughts on A? Give me a second. I gotta pull up the standings again. Um, this one's a lot closer than any of the ones we just looked at. It's a lot harder because I'm gonna look at I'll look at the left side first. So you have the Cardinals and the Pelicans. You have the Rattlers who did good majority of the season, starting to fall off after they had to lose some people. And you also have the Leopards, Stallions, Cougars, and then I think we can say the goals are out it. So you have 6 teams out of 8 that are still very, very close and fighting for it. Um, if we were to call it right now, I would have to say from the left side, you're gonna have the Leopards making finals just because they've looked a little stronger than other teams when I've got to see them. Um, and then overall, other than the Cardinals, they just look to be a better team. Now from the right side, I'll have to say the Tempest just because that's a roster that was built from players who were in A last season, and I think they just have the upper hand against the Wranglers because a lot of that Wranglers roster are newer to A, and they are doing good. But I think the Tempest will just roll them when they get to play again.
Yeah, I mean, for the Wranglers point, that's actually a team I'm coaching, trying to start coaching. They themselves have struggled, but they're working to get a lot better. So I think they can put off a really good showing against the Tempest. I mean, obviously a little favoritism there, but I think that it will come. That matchup will be an interesting one to watch, but I think it comes down to the Wranglers. They either will win or they will lose themselves, right? It won't. Tempest, they're a good team. Give them credit, but I don't think they're going to be as impactful as what Wranglers team will show up to this game. So I have a lot of faith in them. We'll get to see, and I think a lot of that will be shaped as well by how the end of the season goes. On the other end, though, I know you talked about the Leopards looking a little stronger. At max performance, I love the man, but it scared me a little bit, right? Because they had that 3-0 in the bag, and then they didn't, and they looked rough, and they were chasing and doubling, and it was crazy. And I'm like, what is going on? And then they were own goal, and I'm like, good lord. Now, do I think they win that Predator division? Yep, Stallions. They are. I won't say washed, but they are not doing well. They're not doing good, and I know there's a lot of Chase on fans who are like, "Yo, he's going to step it up and win it all." First of all, he's not going to be the one that wins the series for them if that team wins. Hate to break it to you. And second of all, I don't think they've got it in them. I think they've lost too many recently. They're struggling. I actually think the Cougars will end up overtaking them this week. And trying to solidify their place because they've got a lot to prove as a team. Especially come what they had said and how they performed in preseason. So I think it'll come down to Leopards Cougars on that end, with Chase on being almost there and talking about how he would have won had he made it. Whatever. Cardinals, I think will win Wild Division. Pelicans, they looked a lot better. Rattlers been a Titanic sinking ship ever since their good start. Ravens weren't really in contention. Unfortunate. So yeah, but who I think wins in the end, I think it's honestly going to come down to Slate Conference. I think whoever wins Slate Conference is just going to be better, in my opinion, for finals. They will have gone through tougher competition in terms of like overall head to head, and then moving into finals. Like, yeah, maybe Leopards could give them a run for their money if Leopards can play like they did the first 2 games of the stream match. But I definitely think it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Who I really couldn't say, where we go, Admirals were going to win or Tides are going to win. This is really the first one we get to, in my opinion, that you can't just say X team is going to win because they're the best. I think you've got a good smattering of talent across the board. So I'm interested to see, what we get from these guys. But Stevie,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I feel like in like A on up or these leagues that are like more closer where the competition's not as gapping, I feel like it's really good to look at how people have been playing recently and the streaks. So you see Leopards on 5 wins in a row, and Pelicans on 5 wins in a row. So that looks very good coming into these last few weeks for seeding and then going into playoffs. And then, like you said, Rattlers on a 5-game fall. So if you just assume that trends continue, we might see Leopards, Cougars get in from Predator, and then Cardinals, Pelicans. And then I think if the Pelicans can keep that trajectory, they'll win their wild card game. But then I think they'll probably ultimately fall to Leopards because Leopards seem to be the hottest team coming out of that side. And then flipping to the other conference, I think that Wranglers and Tempest are in a tier above all those other teams fighting for those wildcard spots, Embers, Eskimos, Jesters. But I think they have the most potential to be upset from them because the records look good, but some of their losses it wasn't to like another top team, it was games they shouldn't have lost. So you gotta kind of wonder. You get one series, are we gonna like have Eskimos or Embers team show up this one series and just like completely like steal the thunder? And yeah, I just think that's the division games that I want to watch. Is that first round of that side of the conference?
And it will be interesting too because even the wild cards from that side, what do you really expect from them? I mean, I see Jocelyn Hydra in chat. He's like, Titans are going to win against the Jesters. I think actually might happen. Obviously, the goals ended up beating the Jesters. So Bidong best admin confirmed. Had to say that. The Jesters.
Wait. Yo, pause. Bidong was at. Wait, what was the restaurant?
Neither admin played. Okay. That was the unfortunate part.
Neither admin on there played, bro. My man was at Texas Roadhouse. No shot. Are you saying
man was eating a steak while watching his team win, dude? That's the true G life. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, Danger probably was on a Tinder date. So, goals win, Bidong best admin. It just is confirmed. Sorry, it had to happen. That was the result. They didn't show. Bidong is like, I don't care. I'll eat my steak and win. So I don't think the Jesters look that great. I don't think they would win their wild card slot, even if they do get it. But I think, Titans, maybe you'll sneak through. You still got time. So the Elements division is more interesting. They've spread out compared to what they were. Genesis to me are still in it. The Eskimos are still in it. Embers, they're looking better. But I don't really know what to expect from that. So yeah, you're right. I think that the top tier is the tier above, but it has some potential for Dark Horse, mostly in the Elements division, not in the Brawler. But we'll see how that ends up shaping up. But any final thoughts from you guys on A here before we move up?
Go Max.
No. Yeah, I said go next.
Well, he said go Max, I think, but either way, we'll see. Go next and go Max. Okay, so we move up to Double A. This is interesting. So I have said for a long time Vultures number one. Others have said Mustangs number one. Particularly players in Double A have said Mustangs number one. Klopp being the big one off Jaguars. So starting on that side for me, I had said the bold take in Double A chat today, and I'll stand by it. I think Mustangs is a first round team. I think they get first rounded, particularly if you end up having to play like Jaguars. Though I think that is actually a realistic possibility. You're either going to, right now, play the Jaguars or the Pythons. Both of those teams to me are very good. I think Mustangs will beat Pythons, but not beat Jaguars if that's how they end up having to play. So I think they get first rounded. I think Vultures go all the way. Other side, sweet Lord. Courts Conference is a whole different beast. So I want to just get you guys' opinions of Granite Conference before we move over to Courts. I could hear you in the background be like, excuse me, Python number one.
No. I don't think that. I think that what we showed, the time you've got to see us play against the Jaguars, what we showed was like 10% of how we actually play. We played probably our worst series yet to date that night, and we still win 2 games OT, and like they were close games. We had like that 0-4, and then the next 2 were just extremely close games that we did lose, and it sucks. But I think that we have as much a chance of beating the Mustangs than the Jaguars do, because when we've played the Mustangs, we did fine. I mean, we didn't take them to game 5 like the Jaguars, but we still went to game 4, and I don't think we're number one by far. I think if we play the Mustangs, we most likely will lose. Do I think that the Vultures are better than them? I think it's a play style clash, and I think that all in all, it really just depends on how individual players are playing because we have a better play style against the Vultures, whereas the Vultures are going to beat Mustangs on any day, and then the Mustangs are probably going to beat us. It's like you have this a game of rock paper scissors shoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
So
I say that for against you guys more because and I'd said this on stream. My concern for the Pythons is not having a fourth and having to play reflex because he didn't look good on stream. I had said it on stream, trying to be nice about it, but he didn't look good. You need a third, really, in my opinion, to beat a team like the
we
Mustangs, even on an off day. But he didn't look good.
we got our starting roster back.
Ah,
F
okay.
had to go non-playing because of school.
Hmm.
He had a gaming laptop, tested it with Rocket League. It works amazing. So he's back. And that's the roster that we win all our games with, and that we played good, really good for one game against the Mustangs. So
I wish you'd have told me this before I did my pick'ems, LSM. God, you're supposed to keep me in the loop. But actually, yeah,
Right.
that does
We need
change
the
opinions for
insider
me.
info.
I know. That does change opinions for me. I actually think you guys
it's
have a
called
much
look at
better
name and
shot
role
with that.
request,
You're
fella.
right. He definitely compliments you guys better. So actually, you're right. I think that could be a really interesting matchup. But Stevie, what do you think? I mean, who's taking it out of that Granite Conference?
Um, I want to say Vultures, but I feel like the Mustangs break the Bullzorg first round curse finally. Or well,
Mhm.
yeah, and then they'll eventually play in the next one. I think the Mustangs get out of it. I think this is the closest one, by far. I think the Jaguars have the biggest upset potential for whoever they play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think LSM's team can peak against Mustangs or Vultures. My biggest critique of them is that they always let teams take random games. Because uh, y'all had like Falcons to game 5 twice, and then there's a couple games like that. Because y'all winning percentage is only like 50%. But y'all 8-4. So y'all always get the dub and like zone it in and like game that clutch time when it matters. But I think in playoffs versus these better teams that y'all can't do that. And I think that might come to bite y'all from upsetting someone in that first round.
Yeah. I do have a question for you, LSM. You guys, how many times have you played the Jaguars? And what were the like results? Did you win or did they?
Okay, so in official games, we've played them
Mhm.
once. Which was that on stream.
Mhm.
Crack turning, we had to play them twice. Both went the distance. We had a game 7 where we won. And we had a game 5 where they won. Both the game 7 was in game 7 we won, and the game 5 was in game 5 they won.
Well, I asked because what that would mean then, since they had won and then on a stream game, realistically, is you guys would play the Mustangs, who would go in at number 1, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Mustangs would go in at number. Would they go in at number 1 or 2? Did they lose to the Vultures?
Vultures. Okay, really, when it comes to the way this bracket style works, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
We would play Mustang if we went into playoffs right now. We were playing Mustangs and Jaguars are playing Vultures.
See, and I could see a realistic scenario in which finals for that conference is UV Jaguars. Like that's how close it is. Like I could see you guys beating Mustangs, Jaguars upsetting Vultures, and then you have Jaguars v Pythons for the final, and to make it a grand final. Like
It's very possible, but at the same time, I think it's really 50-50. Mustangs are an extremely good team. Their roster's shaky though. I talked to Zap enough to hear that they say they're improving in their fields, but they have to adjust. Like I even talked to Trash about this. Like they want to pass more, but when they try and pass on us, we can stop it, and then they want to shoot more, and like teams like Jaguars can stop just solo plays more. So it's
yeah.
really there's so many like things that could happen to them that could make them lose.
Yeah, I think it's probably they need a good coach because, if I had to guess what's happening there is like, yes, the idea of passing is good. And yes, the idea of mechanics are good. But if you don't understand how to play the game, so you just come in and say, well, we just need to pass more and that's how we win, you'll do it at the wrong times or in the wrong scenario. And because Rocket League is so dynamic, you'll lose. And so that's probably what they're doing, is just like, let's institute training pack mechanics. That doesn't always work. So they probably need a really good coach if they want to change that play style like that, in my opinion, because that's not going to happen with just them going, I want to pass more, right? Like, you have to not only practice, but you need a coach to be like, okay, but why did you pass here, right? There's no point, rather than just you being like, but we wanted to pass, right? Like, so they probably need some coaching. But either way, so it's going to be interesting. So let's move to the quarters conference, where it gets a whole lot more messy. The only two teams, actually, there's only one team that theoretically is eliminated right now, and that's the Bandit, 2-10. Everyone else, even the Inferno, have a shot somehow at making finals. The Elements division, is the weakest of the 4 divisions here in AA. Pulsar's lead at 6-6, tied with the Lightning, Avalanche at 5-7, and Inferno at 4-8. You theoretically could go all the way to first if you're Inferno, assuming you drop Trots, but just saying. But there it's open all the way around. Last week was important for these guys to get a leg up for the Pulsars and the Lightning. Avalanche dropped their ball a little bit, but still they're in it. Brawler division, yeah, Dukes probably are secured in playoffs, but the Warriors and the Voyagers are fighting it out. Now the Voyagers did, I think, lose a player. I could be wrong. I know Pioneers did. I'm not sure about the Voyagers. But I would expect to give that more to the Warriors. Still, though, an incredibly open conference. But for you guys, who's moving on, and who's going to make that finals and like grand finals?
Okay, so it's iffy. It depends on what it comes down to. So if like Pulsars have to play Dukes, I think Dukes win that. If and then Warrior ends up playing like Lightning, I think Warriors win that, and I think Warriors honestly beat the Dukes and then go to finals. I think the only team though, other than the Warriors, that can beat the Dukes is the Inferno. I think every other team plays such standard Rocket League, like as there's like a standard way to play Rocket League, and the Dukes are as far from that spectrum as possible that it makes it hard to play against. Like, and I think the only teams that can beat that are the faster paced teams from this conference, such as the Warriors and the Inferno, and then maybe the Avalanche. But that's it.
The Inferno win their division, in your opinion?
Okay.
Or even a wild card in their division.
This Elements division, I don't even want to make a call on. It's the first division I've ever seen where every team has negative goal differential, first of all. Second of all, the fact that a 4-8 team is only 2 games off from the top team,
with only 2 weeks left of the season or something, like
literally anything could happen. Because I think the Inferno has 2 divisional matches left still.
3. Everyone has 3.
Jeez.
Okay. I'm kind of curious now.
So I was actually looking into this division earlier. What gets really messy is Inferno have tiebreaker on the Warriors. So if they get to that tie point, they would move in. So the Warriors need to be above the Voyagers. Wait, for sure.
Holy cow. Okay, the Inferno's remaining schedule is they have to play the Lightning twice, so 2 divisional games, and then they have to play the Pulsars. Their other 3 games is 1 against the Jaguars, 1 against the Vultures, and then
great team.
Their last game of the season is against us.
Okay, so they're out. I mean, that
they have to play 3 top teams and then 3 divisional games,
and they ain't got no shot. I know Trots is in the background, like, bro, trust, bro. We're going to grand finals. I don't have no faith.
If they do make it through all that, though, they're going all the way.
Yeah, if they somehow squeak in, bro, they're grand finals, 100%.
Yeah,
like
congratulations on your final stat.
Yeah. Finally, Trots has done it. But I mean, LSM, hot take: are they going to beat you?
Okay, I argue with Trots about this on the daily. If it comes down to where that game matters for us, maybe. Or maybe they won't beat us. But if it doesn't matter for us, and if they win it, they might win. Just because I won't care at that point.
It's interesting. I mean, but if you guys had to throw the gauntlet down, one team's moving out of Elements division. Throw it all. Who's doing it?
It's so hard because every team has like this one specific. The reason this division is the way it is because it's all teams with one really good player, and then a bunch of background players. Like Pulsars is causing. Lightning was Aiden. Aiden left, if I remember, so I have no clue who it is now. Avalanche is Moss easily, and Inferno is Inferno. Yeah. Um.
Big
So
5 check.
there's no one I trust enough to win it all, or like I could guarantee takes it. So I'm just gonna go with the safe bet and say the Pulsars because they've been the most consistent at least.
I'm gonna say Avalanche because they have the lowest opponent shooting percentage.
Oh.
Okay. Your opponent should not be shooting above 30%. So
True, I know
all
that.
they have the lowest in that division, and then the Pulsars at 6-6. They score a lot, but they let a lot in. So I think that's gonna eventually wear on them the more games that happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be like Major last season where whoever comes out of Granite Conference will be like the overwhelming favorite to win grand finals. I'll try to spin some storyline. It probably is going to be the Dukes that come out of courts, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Dukes, they they got through and they look pretty decent. And then we'll get to grand finals, and I'm all ready and hype, and then it'll just be the biggest dumpster fire of a grand finals. Whoever comes out of grand conference will be, beating on them cheeks like personal Congolese bongo drums all match long, and we're gonna get another 3-0 or 4-0 or whatever. It's like best of 7, isn't it? For grand finals. Like it's gonna be a yikes moment in finals to me. Whoever comes out of courts conference, unfortunately. Granted, overwhelmingly, in my opinion, is gonna take this one. I mean, I don't think we're disagreed or we agreed on that. Like, it's probably gonna be a contest by the end. Unless it's Inferno.
Yeah, unless it's Inferno, it seems to be whoever comes out that top conference, right? Whatever that one. You know the one we're talking about.
Yeah. All right. So moving up to AAA to get this along. Yeah, AAA is interesting. I'll lead us again. I would have said to you Trojans off the bat, and I know Mux is probably gonna be like, "Yo, now that you underestimate us, we're gonna win," and that certainly could be true. You trade P shooter, which to me didn't really matter. To me, this Trojans team does not hurt from the loss of P shooter. Where it hurts is why it was lost and what happened. And you could tell from talking to players on the team, players around the team, players that know the team, that Cream's mental went just big deflated stonks. Like that was this problem. And then they lose 2 games. And so they lose a game at least. I don't remember if they lost both. But everybody's like, "I'll see P shooter." But it wasn't P shooter, in my opinion. Cream's mental is in the toilet. It's in the dumpster. And that is a problem for this team who has overwhelmingly relied on Mux and Cream. They had their big fallout. All of that was documented. Everybody in AAA got a say in it. And everybody was talking about it. And the team was talking about it. But I'm concerned about this Trojans mental. Do I think they move forward in AAA? Yes. I think the Thunder and the Heat are actually going to be interesting. The Thunder have come back very well after they lost T-Man. Tundra slumping big time. Entropy, actually, I could see them taking a wild card. The Heat have to fall this week, and the Entropy have to win. And I actually really could see the Entropy moving somehow, squeaking into finals and looking pretty good. But I think the Heat probably will find a way there. Maybe the Thunder will fall off. That Elements division still in flux for me. I still think the Trojans take it, but I think the Raiders come through and beat them first round. Or second if they play them then. But Raiders overwhelmingly, in my opinion, will be the finalists from the Star Conference currently. There is some stuff going on with them right now that I know of that I can't share, but I think they'll still do it. On the other side, I doubted the Bobcats for a long time. I think this week with some of their matchups will be the overall test for me before I say, "Yep, Bobcats number 1. Let's go moving into finals." I think Geese end up taking that grand finals though, and it will be Geese v like Raiders by the end of this.
It's okay. I think so. I'm gonna start with the Heat because that was honestly what caught my interest the most. Is the Heat's decision for this Element's decision or division is going to be decided today, I believe. That's just my thoughts. I think that when the Heat and Thunder play today, the winner of that is who's going to be taking that conference or that division. Even though they have to play each other again, I think whoever wins tonight will win the other game, and I think that's it. I think that's who's taking that conference. No other stories. The Heat has to play the Bobcats right after, or this Thursday, and then they play the Entropy, the Owls, the Thunder again, and Vipers. That's a harder schedule. Well, really just the Bobcats and Vipers, but and the Thunder. But really, like I think they'll take it. For the Trojans issue, yes, they lost 2 in a row after the whole issue. They 3-2'd the Heat Thursday, or Tuesday. Oh no, that says Thursday. I can't read. But they play the Knights tonight, and I think that's a good game for them to bounce back on. I think they'll win that, and I think they'll probably go almost undefeated the rest of the season because I don't know what's going on with that team. I don't know much about any of the individual players, but I know theoretically this should still be an amazing team. They have two of probably the best AAA players, and if they don't go like the rest of the way, I'm gonna be confused. So, on did you talk about the other side, or are we just doing the right two?
Yeah, really quickly, I think it's going to be Geese over Bobcats. Bulldogs, they lost Stites. Even with 0 there, I think they're done. Vipers, they have a shot. Owls are looking outside in, and they could make it because of how bad the back of the Predator division is falling apart on each other. But I don't really see it happening. I could see them making first round, and that'd be it of playoffs. So I think it's going to be Geese coming out that side. Though I did predict the Bobcats to beat the Heat. I think if any team could beat them, it would be the Heat in terms of like a mid-tier team. But I think the Bobcats is just I'm tired of doubting them. At 9-3, how much more can I doubt them, right? So I think they're looking pretty good, and I think they'll give the Geese a good run for their money in conference finals.
Yeah, I think they'll give a good run for their money, but I'll have to go with you where I think it's the Geese, considering the Geese 3-0'd the Bobcats when they last played, and their last loss was in week 3, the first game of week 3, and it was 3-2 to the Trojans, and they haven't lost since. So, yeah,
And that was to big Poggin Trojans too,
yeah, that's
not
when they were
current
peak
Trojans.
peak performance Trojan. They went to game 5. So, yeah, I think Geese undeniably will take that.
Yeah, that whole that conference, the race for the wild card looks pretty tight with everyone being 5-7. But regardless of the wild card, can any of those teams reasonably challenge Geese or Bobcats currently? I don't think they really can. So I think it's pretty much a Geese Bobcat showdown, and then I agree that the Geese take it currently. So really, like what who can really surge from this conference to like challenge that?
Yeah, I mean, hot take, it would probably be Tigers. Out of all the teams there, Bulldogs 0 is a great player, but I don't think he himself could fully beat the Bobcats team without Stites now. Dolphins, I've been down on them since the start. You Snip and Edwin, maybe. But I think, Tigers are a team we talked about, and Revy's team, I don't think has got it. Not able to beat there, and Vipers, not either. It's like when you come into this, like the Tigers, we talked about the preseason that they had such talent on the team, they just never could figure it out. Well, now they're in a position where they didn't really need to figure it out. They could just squeak by to finals. So I actually think they've got a good dark horse shot against the Bobcats there. But on the other side, what do you think, Stevie, from the Star Conference?
Um, I feel like the whole race in the elements division is for naught. I think Trojans and Raiders are kind of those teams that seem to be a step above recently. But they all have the potential to start peaking and make a run at the end because you kind of got to this point. All right, you're in the setup. Now's the time. Turn it on. Get to the end. Get that wild card spot. Play whoever you end up with, and then I think the Trojans go all the way to the end. But yeah, if you upset them, then like you kind of like, hey, like we're the real deal now. Ultimately, I don't think it'll happen. But
Well, the Raiders did beat them already too. That's the thing, is like in a close game, but a good game, they just proved to be better. So it's going to be interesting how that all comes together. Any final thoughts for you guys in AAA before we move up to Major, or last thing of the night?
hot take, Osprey over Geese tonight, 3. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, a racer's gonna come out and surprise the whole fam.
Get a clip of this.
Anything from you, LSM, before we move up?
If he take, cannot agree in the story.
Yeah. All right. So the one thing I do want to talk about with you guys in another episode will be Spacey. Did he perform to expectations on the Owls, or was it the Owls that brought him down? Whatever. But either way, moving on up. And guys, remember, we're going to wrap up here in a second. It is going to be a short episode. And then we'll have more next time, and maybe a lot more fun stuff, topics for you guys, that kind of stuff. I know we're just going through this one today. But either way, in Major, overwhelmingly, I think Panthers come out of Elite Conference. The only reason they lost those 2 games was losing Gatman. Now, it wasn't the best look, but it didn't matter. They got him back, and they're back to rolling on all cylinders. Cobras ended up dropping a surprising game. I think Sharks get beat this week twice. or maybe once. I don't remember what I put in my pick'ems. But either way, Lions outside looking in. Hawks, if they don't play Daffy, will lose their spot to Eagles. Eagles, though, will have to contend with the Lions, who on paper, the Lions look like a better roster, but the Eagles certainly still in this one. I know you're happy about that one, Stevie. Ducks, I mean, they have 2 people, so they're done. Other side, who are they going to play? Interesting. So I think Storm end up coming out of Elements Division because they look really good lately. And I think they will win their first game unless it's against the Pirates. I truly think the Pirates... actually, here's the thing. I think Storm end up overtaking the Whitecaps and playing the Spartans. Then I think that Spartans take that in a close game 5. Even though the Storm are really good, the Spartans are firing on all cylinders. Pirates beat the Whitecaps. Pirates play Spartans for rematch in conference finals. Very good game. I couldn't tell you which way it goes. If I had to lean, I know the Spartans beat us last time, but from what I understand, I wasn't there. It was an own goal to end it. So I think the Pirates still have what it takes within them. Pirates move to finals. Panthers beat Pirates. Panthers win. Even if it was Spartans beat Panthers for the rematch, we put that on stream. Panthers definitely win. So whatever happens, I think Panthers take it.
This is definitely a hard one. We had this argument, me and Max, the other day about, or me, Max, and Trots about the whole thing. First of all, I'm gonna start with the right, just because I want to point this out. The Pirates roster will never be a roster again. It's impossible. I know the MMRs of those players now. They will never be able to play together again. So this is their moment, and I think just because of how stacked this team is and how much those players have improved, I think honestly, they're the best bet against the Panthers. I think the Spartans will probably come up against the Storm, most likely. I can kind of agree. I think Pirates comes against Whitecaps. I think Whitecaps give Pirates a good run for their money. The Whitecaps are a good roster, all in all. Yor is a good major player from what I've seen, from what I've heard him talked about. Really like him. And I think it really will come down to Pirates and Spartans. And I think just whoever makes it there will be the one to give Panthers a run for the money. I think Spartans play the Panthers again. I think it'll be a better game. I think the Panthers are a really good roster. Yes, I think they prove that this is the most, like, they can just change themselves around and basically everything works. Yes, they lost Gatman and they lost 2 games, but I still think that they know that they're not they're defeatable without Gatman now. So I think if that were to ever happen again, they win those games. I think they've probably improved. I think that the only team from the left side that is even going to challenge the Panthers are the Cobras. I want to figure out what makes the Cobras tick. Like Toxic and Mad Marks are probably 2 of, if not, they're really top major players, but they don't care. And I think if we figured out a way to make these major players care, we would have a much more closer major. But it's just all these really, really good players, just they don't care enough, so they don't try fully.
Yeah. And then, the easy answer would be put them on stream, but they're unfortunately banned for the season, so that's not going to happen, even if they get to finals. I've been discussing that with admins, and nope. Unfortunate, but nope. Grand final will be played first time off stream, so it'll be interesting. Either way, Stevie, give me your opinions, and then we got to hop out of here. So let me know. What do you think, brother? You are muted, my man, at least for me.
All right. It's a shame that the Panthers are in that conference, because if you would throw any other team in there, this would be like one of the tightest races. But unfortunately, I think the Panthers get out of there pretty handily. And then the Pirates Spartans match on the 7th of September is going to be a great match to see what happens. I think that'll tell us a lot based on the results. If it's close, we can expect another close one in playoffs. If it's not, then that might tell you who ends up playing the Panthers. But yeah, those will be the 2 from each side, or the 3 from each side that they got the best shot.
This time I'll play, so we'll 3-0 sweep, no problem. You know what I'm saying?
You should have told me that for the predictions.
Yeah, no, I don't know that I'm. Yeah, so I guess those are our predictions for what we think so far. Again, we will make a bracket in the future, and I want to again thank you guys, Ellison and Stevie, for coming through today. I do have all out here. Obviously, got that coaching session to go to and do. But yeah, guys, so shorter episode today. We'll come back next week with a longer one. Try to record it earlier. We've having some issues with some recording. Obviously, I think Flipgator will be on that one. Hopefully this time he can make it. A lot of good action, a lot of good fun to do next time. That said, guys, any last words from you two before we hop out of here?
Nope.
Nope.
All right.
No more
Well,
hot
thank you
takes.
guys. Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll have more soon. Right. It's been a little bit of a lull. Not a ton has happened yet. We're ready to go for the back 2 weeks season again. All-Stars coming soon. You guys will get to hear a lot more about that through announcements, and we will be streaming it. It'll be a ton of fun. You guys won't want to miss it. But until then, guys, till next week, thank you guys for tuning in, for listening, for watching, whatever you guys are doing. We will see you guys next time.